In the absence of Chairman Hannon, I will call the meeting to order at 7:06. Can
Okay,
you do the roll call, please?
will do. Robert Hannon, Rich Berlandi,
Here.
David Fox,
Here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Neil Kelsey,
Present.
Mark Simpson, Ned Stachin, Karen Vibert.
Right here.
Hey, someone's recording.
Who's that?
They're recording. Oh,
Who's that talking? All right. All right, Commissioner Eisner, it's all yours.
Okay,
Before you
we'll
start,
go
excuse
to,
me, can you tell me, before you start, excuse me, can you tell me, am I voting or am I just, or am I wasn't paying attention to the count?
Yeah,
No problem. The acting chair or the chair will actually announce that before we start the meeting. He'll actually, if we don't have enough of the members, they'll actually appoint an alternate to fill in for a certain person.
I understand. I apologize. I thought you
No.
had started.
No problem. No problem.
okay. And Bruce, we have, it looks like I didn't, looks like we have 5, including Karen.
right.
Yes.
So yes, we'll have Karen sit in. We expect Bob will be here, so we'll have Karen sit in for Emily.
Emily's not on the commission anymore, so she
Oh,
can fit
that's
Place her.
for either Ned or you can either fill in for Commissioner Stachin or Commissioner Simpson.
okay. Do you anticipate either one of those logging in?
I haven't heard from either one of them,
No.
so
Okay.
just pick one and we'll
So
change it.
we'll go alphabetically and we'll have Karen sit for Stimson.
Okay.
It's not alphabetical, but yeah, it is. No,
All right.
Karen is sitting for Mark.
Yes. All right.
So we'll hear item number 1 under new
Yep.
business, Town of Farmington.
New business one is tabled. The town has contracted with a SLR to do some work for permitting of this with the Army Corps and with the Front River watershed. So until we hear back from them, we'll keep this on the agenda. We're gonna keep an eye on the timing of this as well, because there may be some point where if they don't meet it, if they don't meet the deadline, we'll have to have them either withdraw or ask for an extension. Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to item 2, Farmington West Estates,
Farmington
lot
West.
8678 Plainville Avenue.
Yeah, there's
Snow.
nothing new on this one. They're waiting to make the repair, the changes. I heard from the attorney this morning. They're looking for a date of October 12th. So I'm not sure how that fits in with everybody's schedule for a site walk. That would be next Thursday. They've got the wetland scientists on board. It would be a Thursday night, so we'd probably have to try to shoot for like a 5:30-ish, to give us some time before it gets dark.
Okay, that would work for me, Bruce.
Anybody else have a problem with that date?
I think it works for me. This is Dave.
Okay.
This is Neil. I should be okay.
Perfect.
I'm gonna go to that one.
Okay, got you. And then Rich?
I was just checking my calendar. That looks like it works.
Perfect. All right, so let's put down a tentative date of 10/12 and 5:30 works for everybody.
Yes.
All right, I'll get
Yep.
back to the applicant, and that's barring no more significant rain events or pouring rain that day. Okay,
And this is at the site.
this is at the site. I will resend. I sent everyone last time a map, so I will actually resend that map. Sandy will put together a little agenda of the site walk, and we'll have that all sent out to everybody again. All right, and the link, Commissioner Vibert, it's in my agenda review. So if you go to the agenda review on the PDF, there's a link to the folder and all the files are in there.
You
Okay,
can call me Karen, but thank you.
Commissioner. Okay, all set.
Okay,
All
so
set,
that
sir.
brings us down to item 3 under new business, Hartford Healthcare, 9 Farm Springs Road.
Okay, I have the applicant on here. Let's see, where are they? Oh, wait a minute, what was that?
That was Steve Barbino, I think.
Steve Barbino kicking out.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, are you on?
Yeah, Bruce, we're here. I just want to start off, say thanks, everybody, for having us again. I'm actually going to pass it off to Eric Davison from Davison Environmental to start us off this evening.
Yeah, hi everybody. Can you hear me okay? This is Eric Davison, wetland and soil scientist, practicing for past 23 years. And just for some context, I am also a wetland commissioner in my hometown of Chester for the past 12 years. So get to sit on both sides of the table. Just as a little background, the original plan or the original intent of this project when Andrew approached myself was to clear trees in a wetland to open up the view shed. Andrew, being a layperson, didn't really understand what the context of that was, what the resources were that were in play. And so we did a site walk, and basically I determined that the areas that they want to clear the trees that are in the wetland are all part of a detention basin. My comments here are not referencing the highway right away because Andrew's arborist has indicated that he has the necessary permits to do the work that they need to do in the I-84 right of way, and that is not subject to Farmington's regulations anyhow. So just to reduce confusion, my comments here are related just to the detention basin. So all of the trees that we want to clear are in that detention basin. The detention basin is entirely man-made. It is a stormwater structure that was created in the 70s. It was created in an upland. It has no relation, origin, to a natural body of water or wetland. So I think Bruce had indicated in some of his feedback that I should explain to the commission, well, what's the function of this wetland? Well, the principal function of a detention basin is water quality renovation and water quantity control, protecting downstream waters from the impacts of pollutants in stormwater. So that's the function of this wetland. In its current state, it's not functioning well because it has not been maintained in many decades. So the best we can assess, because it is so thick, is that it is in a flow through condition, meaning the stormwater comes in one side and out the other on a gradient. There's no retention time that we can tell. Our best assumption is that there's not much storage in there. You're not getting much opportunity for sediment fallout, and slowing the flow, slow release of the flow, and interaction of that stormwater flow with dense vegetation over a number of hours and days is how you get stormwater to get clean before it discharges. So our best assessment is it's not functioning in that way anymore. Just a little background on detention basins themselves. Even going back to the late 90s, when I first started as a soil scientist, we had a couple of conferences where the state came out and actually, for the first time, gave guidance on what do soil scientists do when they encounter a detention basin or a created stormwater wetland on a site? Are those regulated? And technically, they are regulated as wetlands, but solely for the purpose of protecting the design function of that resource. In other words, if someone buys a property and it has a stormwater pond on it that was designed to capture stormwater and treat it, you can't just come in and say, oh, it's a stormwater pond, it's not regulated because it was created, I'm going to fill it in, because that has downstream impacts to neighbors both in water quantity impacts and water quality impacts. So the state had gave us guidance in the late 90s to say, you need to map detention basins and stormwater ponds as regulated resources, but merely for the fact that because that water needs to be accounted for in any design. But the intent was they need to be maintained and manipulated. In other words, you wouldn't treat them like a native wetland. In other words, you wouldn't say, well, you can't come in and clear the vegetation. You can't come in and cut the trees because that has potential impact as it potentially could for a native wetland. So the idea being regulated, yes, but only with the intent that the function is maintained. And even going back to your 2017 approval of a maintenance plan for this basin, which was never done by the previous owner, and obviously the property transferred without that ever getting noticed or resolved in any kind of real estate transaction. So that work in 2017 was never done, but it was authorized by the commission pending the review of your town engineer. But I can tell you that if that had gone through, that work would have included clearing these same trees that we're discussing clearing now. So, and just to go back to a comment that I think, I'm not sure which commissioner it was, I think you had sort of finished our last hearing by saying, you know, maybe our messaging was off, that we said we wanted to create a view shed when in reality we want to restore a basin. Again, going back to our original intent was Hartford Healthcare's original intent in hiring me was to clear trees in a wetland, not realizing that the wetland was actually a detention basin that needed a complete overhaul. I just felt that it was disingenuous to come in and say, hey, we're here for a permit to restore a basin, not mentioning why I got hired in the first place. So I think that's just to close the loop on the messaging. So what we're trying to accomplish here is a restoration.
Eric, if I can interrupt you for a moment. I want to recognize that Chairman Hannon has joined and Commissioner Stachin has also joined the meeting. So Chairman Hannon, do you want to take over at this point, or do you want to run through the application and switch the gavel at the end of this application?
We'll wait till the end of this one because I think this one's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thanks. And I'll continue to run the meeting until after this application. Please continue, Eric. Thanks for that opportunity.
Yeah, so again, I just didn't want it to seem disingenuous that once I got to the site, realized, oh, you know, these trees need to come out because this whole basin needs to be restored. I just wanted to give that background because it just seemed like I wasn't being intellectually honest there. So just to circle back, our plan here is to restore this basin. Originally, we were considering a modest restoration of basin function. In speaking with Hartford Healthcare and getting some feedback from Bruce after your site walk, and Andrew can speak to this or confirm this, Hartford Healthcare is willing to do a more substantial renovation of the basin. In other words, have Mike Ott, who can speak to this in greater detail, have him actually do some modeling on what is the contributing watershed and how can we get this basin up to current standards. In other words, if possible, restore the vegetation, create a forebay, create some residence time and storage of the water quality volume, and try to get it basically up to the new stormwater quality manual guidelines. Now, Mike can tell you some of the caveats with that, you know, whether the sizing is correct or not. But Hartford Healthcare has said that they're committed to going a little bit further than what we originally intended, which was basically, we said we would muck this out and try to get at least the basin bottom restored and the vegetation restored. They're willing to look into how can they get the design function back, water quality and quantity design function back. So Mike can speak to that a little bit as well. And all of this being done again would also include clearing all of the trees along the border of the basin, which is ultimately how we started this project. So with that, I'd probably just turn that over to Mike. Mike, if you just maybe want to speak to what the steps would be to try to get this basin back into shape.
Eric, do you mind just holding on 1 second?
Yeah,
I just want to make sure everyone's clear. So here's the picture from the parking lot. There's 84 out there. Here's the basin in here. So we're talking about clearing of the trees and the vegetation in the basin. And between here, there's a walking trail, and I'll flick over to that picture. I just want to make sure we're all, here's the walking trail here, okay? The detention basin's on the left. There's vegetation here on the right, from here down to the right-of-way fence, and then Hartford Healthcare already has approval from DOT to clear the trees from the fence down to the edge of the pavement. So everyone was making a mention that it's just the trees in the basin, but I want everyone to be clear that based on the application, they're looking to clear this stuff as well. Again, basin is on this side. This is a separation between the two, and then this vegetation will be cleared from here all the way down to the edge of 84. That's what I'm being. I just want to make sure I'm clear and that the commissioners are clear as well. Is that the case?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be correct. So in that picture that you're showing on that slope, they would be clearing those tall shrubs in that upland bordering that wetland in the right of way where your cursor is. Yes,
Exactly, because 84 is right here.
Yeah, so
that
that little strip
Okay.
that you see of the shrubs and saplings there would also come out. Yeah, but
Perfect.
that little strip is in the upland, and then when you drop down, the wetland boundary is right about at the fence line in that area, give or take.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I just want to make sure everyone's clear in terms of what's being cut. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bruce.
Good evening, everyone. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summer Hill Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors in Madison, Connecticut. So I don't have a lot to add. Eric did a great job, I think, of summarizing. To stick with the last conversation just now about removal on the embankment on the right side of that picture, we would do that. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that the stormwater detention basin appears to have been formed by both excavation and the formation of an embankment. The embankment is what you're looking at in this picture that has the walking path on top of it. So it is on the roughly parallel to and on the highway side of the the Interstate Route 84 side of the detention basin or stormwater basin. So it would be normal practice. The Connecticut DEP would recommend it also to keep the embankment slopes mowed periodically so that woody vegetation doesn't become established on the embankment itself. So that's one of the reasons we would or that is the reason actually that we would remove vegetation on the highway side slope of the embankment. So just really briefly, we would, in order to, so the design plan that we've, that Bruce was nice enough to get us in the town's records has a 1979 date on it. I think I had mentioned this at the last meeting. I think it might be fair to say that stormwater quality didn't have the same focus then as it does today. We don't know what the actual design intent of the stormwater basin was. More than likely, it was purely intended to be a stormwater detention basin. In other words, it was intended to control peak rates of discharge leaving the basin. However, there is, as we discussed last time, there's a 12-inch diameter pipe and a 24-inch diameter pipe, and those are rather large waterway openings as outlets for the basin. So we'd have to, just really briefly, we'd have to determine the exact catchment area or drainage area, the land area that contributes surface water runoff to the basin, as well as the storm drainage system, which you can see here in the town's GIS that Bruce has up, that is discharging to the basin. It appears in my quick look I think I had mentioned this last time, it appears that parcel or street address number 10 on the other side of Farm Springs Drive or Road may contribute stormwater runoff through at a minimum through its storm drainage system to this basin. The town, the actual town road, Farm Springs Road, I assume it's a town road. Its storm drainage system may be contributing also, and you can see, I think you might remember, the town actually has an easement over the 9 Farm Springs Road parcel, the Hartford Healthcare parcel, for that 30-inch pipe that Bruce is highlighting, that 30-inch diameter pipe that enters the stormwater basin. So there's so we would, determine the land area that contributes water to the basin. We would model that drainage area, come up with the volume of water that's coming into the basin and the rates of discharge for different design rainfall events. We would do some topographic survey work to determine how much storage volume the basin has and what its bottom elevation is, what the outlet elevations are, and we would develop some of you, or maybe you may all be familiar with this, we would develop what's called a stage storage discharge relationship for the basin. And we would model it and see if we could hopefully modify the basin to provide a water quality function that might include lowering the basin bottom below the current outlet elevations to provide some hopefully storage of the water quality volume that would be temporarily stored and then allowed to infiltrate into the underlying soils. We may be able to create, and Eric has mentioned this before, create some micro topography in the bottom of the basin to lengthen the flow path from the outlets or the inlets into the basin, lengthen the flow path from those inlets to the outlet to give water more residence time in the basin. Certainly we would be able to plant the bottom of the basin, which helps in large part with water quality. And we might have to modify the outlet rather than having a 12-inch and a 24-inch diameter pipe. We may have to modify the outlet in some manner. We may have to, for instance, construct a outlet control structure over those outlets with smaller openings that control the rate of peak discharge and control the time that stormwater is within the basin. So all engineering work, it would be surveying and engineering work to come up with that modification plan that hopefully would provide, number one, a stormwater treatment and water quality function, and hopefully some level of stormwater detention to control peak discharges that leave the basin. That's really it. I think in a nutshell, be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you. So is that it for the presentations by the applicant? I gather that is I guess the conclusion.
Yes.
So I will, thanks. I'll make a couple of comments and then I'll go around to the rest of the commission. And Eric, you've done a lot of work before the commission, speaking for myself and likely for the commission, but we do view you as a wetland expert based on the work that you've done before our commission. But I may differ a little from your perspective on how to handle this wetland, because I don't see this as a simple restoring the stormwater management function of the area. If the detention basin had been remiss in being managed for a year or two, I think that'd be very different than essentially being left to go on its own for 10, 20, or almost 30 years. So I do think in addition to and the point that I was making also is that the wetland statute and regulation applies to wetlands, both natural and man-made. So I do think this commission has full jurisdiction on what happens in this area. Given the amount of time that nature has had to take over the area, I do think that a habitat assessment along with the stormwater management function should be done. And I'd want to see that before the clear cutting goes in, because if you go in and start clearing everything, then of course you're not going to be able to assess what habitat value is there. So I think along with coming up with a design that would meet current standards for stormwater management, I think that a current state habitat assessment should be made. And if there is valuable habitat that has come up over the last 30 years, then that habitat should be restored or offset as part of the final restoration plan for the site. So those are my own thoughts. And Eric or Michael, if you want to offer some feedback, you can, or I'll go around to the commission.
Yeah, I would like to. I can do it now or after you go through everybody.
Yep, go ahead.
So you just to clarify, I'm not arguing that the commission doesn't have jurisdiction, but the language you referenced in section 22A of the wetland regulations, natural or artificial, refers to designating an intermittent water course or intermittent water body. It's simply saying what falls within the definition of a wetland or water course, but that's what that artificial language is in relation to. I guess what I'm struggling with is, from a habitat perspective, you've got basically a Phragmites monoculture. You've got no standing water. And you've got stormwater, which is obviously low quality water, got pollutants in it. It's got low dissolved oxygen. I mean, these are habitats you find a million references to the fact that a stormwater basin that is a Phragmites monoculture next to a parking lot on the highway doesn't have any habitat value. Could it be improved if you converted that to native vegetation with a seed mix and low growing, more diverse wetland vegetation, which would be the intent? It would be better, but I mean, I would just, there's very little habitat value with a stormwater basin in this landscape context. I would just say that. There's no open water for any amphibians to breed. Yeah, I just, without documenting that firsthand, I can tell you that I see no opportunity for any real habitat value. But I'll let you go on to the other commissioners.
Thanks for the feedback. And you've probably gone a long way towards coming up with the functional assessment. So you probably supplemented a little of field work for that additional review. It probably wouldn't be a big deal to roll that into the overall work plan. So thanks for the feedback. I'll go around and Chairman Hannon, I'll give you the first opportunity for additional questions or comments, recognizing that you're present, and I'll then go alphabetically after that.
Bruce, can you pull that picture out a little bit so we see a little bit more of the surrounding properties?
How's that?
Okay, the reason, that's maybe a little too far. Because what I'm trying to look at in that area is looking at where a bunch of the stormwater currently goes. And it looks as though a lot of it comes down that one pipe. I'm assuming that's the 24-inch pipe.
Yep, comes from 8.
The south.
Okay. Comes from 8 here.
Yep.
This section of parking lot comes down through there. 10 picks up some of the parking lot back here.
Yep.
Here, and then this section, and then everything from here goes on down out through the old Marriott, which is the up house, to a detention basin that's here.
Okay, now the reason I'm asking is because one of the issues that we've dealt with in the past is when you start getting higher concentrations of salt and stormwater, things of that nature, it tends not to be conducive for vernal pools and things of that nature. So I kind of understand what Eric's talking about in terms of just because of the nature of where the water's coming from, how that really may not contribute to any positive aspects of habitat for whatever type of invertebrates might be there, which I'm not even sure there would be because of the highway and just the heavy use of the property in the general area. So I agree with Robert. I think, the habitat assessment is a good thing, but I think Eric's already come quite a ways of at least identifying kind of where that's coming from. So
Can I elaborate on that for one quick second, if you don't mind? Yeah,
Yes,
and I
please,
think,
proceed.
yeah, and I think that's exactly the point. And I think you were asking, where does this water go? I mean, this water drains to Batterson Park Pond. So that's an important recreational resource that the city's trying to restore. So one thing we see often, not in this landscape context, but when we have developments that are when we have new developments that go into forested landscapes, in other words, it's a fragmentary feature in an otherwise forested landscape, we see, especially if it's a long hold time in a detention basin, we've seen vernal pool species take to those basins. It tends to generally be a negative, in other words, a population sink, that they don't survive because the basin hydrology is not consistent and the water quality is not consistent. So it's generally considered a negative aspect of a detention basin to have amphibians established in them. And oftentimes with new developments now, we are walling them off to prevent what we call decoy breeding in basins. But think about the practicality of that. Let's say you have basins all over town. Again, their primary function when they're constructed is to protect downstream water from pollutants. If you found that, hey, this basin's been defunct for 10 years and needs maintenance, and someone sees salamanders or frogs breeding it, and all of a sudden you're gonna forego that maintenance, that's just has no long-term viability. I mean, you have to always fall back on what is the primary function. If it's water quality, then it needs to provide that function. And then that's the issue here, is it's just not providing that function.
Thank you.
That's kind of why I was just, sort of trying to figure out where the water supply was coming from, because again, you've got a lot of paved area. You're going to have a lot of salt, sand, things of that nature that you have to deal with. In terms of the basin itself goes, and some of the comments that were made from an engineering perspective, I don't think I would really have a whole lot of heartburn if you had to go a little bit deeper in order to recreate what the original intention was, and that was water quality. I think that's probably not a bad thing. I guess where I had some original concerns, but again, it wasn't from firsthand knowledge, but just kind of what I've heard, because unfortunately I missed the last meeting, was cutting some of the trees. But it sounds like right now that the entire basin area, the trees that are in there, all that's coming down as a way to restore the basin. The question came into play, I think, in terms of, and I'm assuming that right along parallel to the property line along the highway, that's where the walking trail is. And the area, Eric, that you were talking about, where there would be clearing down to the highway or the fence.
Yes.
What's on the eastern side of that walking trail, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and just to clarify, so in the basin, there's roughly, I think I had noted in my report, 30 or so trees. They're mostly saplings. And yeah, if you hold on that photo, Bruce, the one you just had up, if you don't mind.
This one?
The previous one, yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so what you see there, that's predominantly what you're looking at. These are really saplings. Most of them are 2 inches and smaller, 25 feet high or less. They're mostly red maples. I mean, and the arborist, I think, is on tonight, can speak to it. I mean, they're just talking about flush cutting those and moving on. No machinery in the wetland, there's no ground disturbance, there's no stumping. So it's selective cutting of saplings. So you're really converting what's now being slowly converted from a marsh to a forested wetland is just going to be converted back, which is what DOT is doing along the every highway in Connecticut right now, is just basically cutting those roadsides. So it's not a significant change to the wetland. It's just controlling succession from marsh to forest and taking out this tree sapling. So, but without stumping and without machinery in the wetlands, I mean, that's very low impact.
But I thought you would need equipment in the wetland, or the basin, right? So you're not talking
Yes,
about,
the basin will have to be completely mucked out for
Right.
for what you're seeing in this photo on the left-hand side of this photo. Those would just be cut, lopped over, and laid over. The ones that you're seeing, which are pretty much in the right of way, but that vegetation line is right about at the limit of the right of way. So yeah, those would just be lopped over. But there's the only machinery that we need is to go into the basin, and that's to take all that sediment out. And in that process, we want to dig out some of the frag, and we want to reestablish what should be in that basin.
I think you also said earlier that this area that we're seeing to the left of the walking trail, that should be mowed once or twice a year as well. So I understand cutting the trees flush, but it looks like you've got some phragmite in there and some other growth, but that would basically be mowed, once or twice a year to try to keep at least the woody growth down.
Keep the woody growth down, and also, I mean, I know we had talked about herbicide, and the commissions are getting a little bit more leery about herbicide spraying. So in absence of that, I like to recommend that you mow the frag. Like right now, you can see all the seed heads on at the end of the season. Mow the frag before it goes to seed. I mean, it's still going to regrow and be a healthy population on site, but at least you're cutting down production of millions and millions of seeds. So you mow it at the end of the season. That's usually when the growing seasons end. You don't have much in the way of wildlife activity in the wetlands late in the season. So mowing it before it goes to seed. Otherwise, I would recommend nuking it with herbicide.
Okay, so but by just doing the mowing, that will help maintain some of the slope stabilization, and it shouldn't create any erosion problems.
Yeah, exactly. Mowing would, and then you're not removing any root mass or stumps or anything, so you're not creating any kind of erosion issue. Correct. Yeah, I think one of the big things with these basins, and it's one of the things we do in our town here in Chester, is that we look at all of these properties that were built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, right before the Clean Water Act started and the Connecticut Wetland Regulations started. Anytime we get any opportunity to do any kind of redevelopment, you look at these basins that were not designed up to current standards. It's an opportunity to fix issues that arose, remedy, previous developments that didn't have appropriate water quality treatment. Because everything we're constructing now, granted, you could say we're overdeveloping all across the state, but at least now the standards are that there's a net neutral impact, hopefully, if you're incorporating a number of stormwater design measures, because those new stormwater treatment systems have gotten so advanced. But these ones that were constructed in the 70s, they're basically just holes in the ground. So they don't really provide much water quality renovation. So, here's an opportunity to do that. Obviously, the ask being, we want to cut the trees in the basin and some of these extra trees along the berm. But I think that's what the town's getting as an offset, is a functioning basin that is clearly has a very developed watershed.
And then is there any chance of replacing some of the basins with hydrodynamic separators? Is that a possibility? Has that been discussed at all?
Yeah, Mike, is that something that you could look at in your analysis, whether there's an upside to that, if we let Mike speak to that?
We could. We'd have to get a better handle on, and hopefully there's as-built drawings of the storm drainage system, and see if there's an opportunity where we have enough of a minor catchment area to where a hydrodynamic separator would provide a benefit. But yes, we could look at that.
Yeah, because I guess here you've got the two pipes coming into the property. So if there was a way to to possibly go back, look at that, and have one of the separators installed, that might be a very positive aspect as well.
Right. Yeah, there's actually three.
Yeah, that's right, because there's the one to the north of the building itself, but
Right.
the other two I think are coming in off the property. At least one is coming in off the property.
Right.
And you've got one to the south of the building, which I guess picks up in the parking lot as does the other one. So yeah, so there might be 3 spots to possibly do something there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if Mike, if it showed that you couldn't get proper sediment control with just the basin renovation itself, that would be good pre-treatment.
Okay, thanks, Robert. I think that does it for me.
Okay, we'll go around alphabetically to see if there are additional comments or questions. Rich, that'll bring you up.
I think everybody's pretty much covered everything that I had today, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fox.
Yeah, I'm in pretty much the same situation, but I'm just kind of confused as to what it is we're going to be approving. Is it going to be like a two-phase thing? We would approve them taking down all the vegetation and then approve a plan for the better water quality basin? Or are we going to just do it all at once?
A great question, Dave, and I was buried behind one of my screens here are the agenda review notes, which I am not immediately finding for the staff recommendation. So Bruce, if you want to maybe give us a reminder on what the recommendation was on tonight, that would be helpful.
Well, that was the request of the applicant. They were looking to do this in a two-phase process. First phase would be to clear the trees. Second phase would be to go in, do the surveying and the design, and then the earth excavation, and then the removal of the material, and then the upgrades to the basin.
Okay, that seems to make sense. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bruce. Commissioner Kelsey.
Yeah, just first of all, thanks for the additional perspective and information tonight. Very helpful. Just one question on the mowing. If you go back a couple pictures, Bruce, where the fence line was on the left, and I think Commissioner Hannon was talking about mowing the stuff, to the left there. There's a fence in there, if I recall, right? So
the fence is right about there.
Yeah, so who would be responsible for that mowing? Is that the Hartford Healthcare, or is that DOT? I guess who's responsible for the other side of that fence?
The fence is roughly the property line. That's the no access line. So everything side of the fence would be the property owner. Everything on the other side of the fence would be the DOT property.
Okay.
So
any mowing that Commissioner Hannon would be talking about would be done by the DOT in that area.
Well, they have a permit from the DOT to do the clearing, to do the initial clearing in the right of way. They got approval.
Yeah, I'm talking about the ongoing maintenance, so it doesn't come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
so is that right? The future maintenance is DOT responsibility, or is that also Hartford?
That would be the DOT maintenance. I don't know how much or how frequent they would be in there cutting that. I think they would, if you look at the road now, it would be their typical would be maybe every 10 years or something like that, or 5 years, whatever they do.
Okay.
I couldn't guarantee on how often the DOT would be in there.
Okay, and that's kind of why I was asking, was it's possible that this comes back, right?
Yeah, it could.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, if you look at this supposedly hasn't been cut since 1970 or 80. So if that's the case, then we're talking another, 40 years, so.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that clarification.
Neil, is that it for you?
Yeah, nothing further. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Stetson?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at it a little differently. I don't see this, the actual area of the sediment basin, I don't know, having a natural habitat value, because it's squeezed in between I-84, a lot of parking lots and a lot of commercial buildings. But what I do think the more important part of it is getting a sediment basin that is working well, so that the water that's fed into Batterson Park Pond is a higher quality, and I think along with approving this, part of the approval should be a maintenance plan that they could show to us that this thing will be maintained regularly going forward, and that if it's not, then we have some sort of way to remind them that they have to do that, and that's a responsibility. So my concern is getting the sediment basin up to par to provide good quality water to Batterson Park Pond, which may become a state park someday. So my concern is the sediment basin working properly. So I would like to see this go. That's all I have.
Great. Thanks. Commissioner Vibert? Commissioner Vibert, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
Karen?
Hmm?
She was there.
Commissioner Vibert, are you there?
I thought he said that. I thought he said, I heard Commissioner Vibert. It's Vibert, but that's okay.
That's all right.
My error.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I answer to both. So no, thank you.
Okay. So then I guess we'll have to assess what to do. And Eric, I think you probably swayed me with your answer earlier. I was coming into the meeting of a strong opinion that a functional habitat assessment should be done before any tree cutting, but you gave a pretty good summary of what your knowledge of the site and what you believe the functional value is. So I'm going to sort of switch my position. I'd be not opposed to allowing the two-phase approach with the manual tree cutting to take place first. But I would like to see, and this is general comment for the commission, the habitat value assessed as part of the overall assessment for phase two, and then any habitat value that was being lost be compensated or restored elsewhere with the final design and long-term maintenance plan.
Yeah, I think where we're gonna get that habitat improvement is once we can get the hydrology right, get rid of the frag, and have a native plant community in there. And that's the plan, is we're gonna plant seed mixes and plugs in there, all native wetland vegetation. So a better community. It'll have, as much habitat value as you can expect given the, urbanized landscape context, but certainly we can include things that have, function for wildflower function for pollinators and things like that.
Okay, great, thank you. So for the commission, we'll have to decide whether we're comfortable with the information that's been presented to date, and potentially a motion to approve the two-phase approach, or if the commission believes that we need additional information up front. Certainly then we could table action tonight in favor of getting more information. So I think we probably need to have a quick assessment by the commission as to whether we're comfortable with the information to date moving forward with the motion. And if so, then we'd need a motion. So
Chair, do you mind if I interrupt one quick question? There's only one,
please, Bruce.
just a reminder that we have to take two votes. It would have to be, first would be determining significance, and then the second would be the vote. So don't forget that first one. All right.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay.
So with that said, I think we'd have to determine significance, and I think the record would indicate that it's a low value functioning wetland, arguably all maintenance work. So it would be potentially a non-significant activity. If that is the general feeling by the commission, then someone should make that motion.
I agree with that, so I'll make that motion that it is not significant.
Dave will second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so that motion would carry. So, and Bruce, thanks for the clarification. So now we'd have to decide whether we think we have enough information to move forward tonight with the next motion, or if additional information is needed. Sort of a quick sense. I think we probably have enough information. Anyone opposed to that sort of
I do have a quick question though. So if I heard everybody correctly tonight, there's still a fair amount of engineering work that has to be done, correct?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that if we do go forward with this, is this to allow them to go ahead and do the engineering work and things that they need to do? Because I would think that they would need to come back in with some kind of final plans for engineering and planning staff to review.
Exactly. I would actually suggest that you make, if we do approve it, make a condition of approval regarding the engineering final plans and that they come back to the commission for final approval on the plantings and the overall design of the basin. So I think we can do that, and then that would lock that in as a requirement as part of this approval to do the clearing, if that seems to work for everybody.
Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, so phase one would be, I'm sorry, Commissioner Hannon, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that seeing as how I'm not in charge of the meeting right now, I'm happy to make that motion.
I appreciate that, Chairman. And I think the other point of clarification is phase one is for the manual cutting of the trees to allow for the additional assessment of the site. That's correct, right, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. So Commissioner Hannon, do you want to make that motion?
Yes, I will.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. Can I add one thing possibly is that, I know because some of this is on DOT, that DOT does have permits, ongoing permits to, when they have right-of-way property, to allow it to be maintained. So I don't know if that can be examined or not. I don't want to make that a requirement. I just want to say that should, maybe that could be something that the applicant can look into.
So you're asking for the DOT to do their maintenance on their side?
Well, I don't think I don't know how much you're gonna get done on that side, but I don't know. I would just say, I know there's permits that are ongoing permits that are allowed. Because I don't think DOT is gonna do any kind of maintenance there. I'll be honest with you.
Exactly. I agree.
But what I'm looking for is as they maintain one side,
No.
I don't know if it would be, it should be possible to maintain both sides. I mean, they're not right at the edge of the roadway there, for the waterway, but, and I know that there are right-of-ways that have ongoing maintenance done by, different, especially some highway right-of-ways go quite a ways into a piece of property. And I know those have ongoing, permits that allow for maintenance of that area. So I don't want to make it a requirement or anything like that. I'm just saying it's a possibility and maybe the applicant can look into it.
Okay.
Good comment. Thank you, Ned. Okay, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so Bruce, you can follow up with the applicant on the next steps
Yes, I
moving
will.
forward. Good,
Yes, I
thank you.
will. Thank you.
So I will yield the chair to Commissioner or Chairman Hannon, and Bob, just for your information, at the beginning of the meeting, we did seat Commissioner Vibert for Commissioner Simpson, but we now have more people signed in. When we started the meeting, there were 5. Now we have 7.
Yeah, with Karen.
Yeah, but Karen still stays signed
Yeah.
in because Mark's not
Exactly.
here.
Yep.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm gonna make the assumption you already dealt with 1, 2, and 3 on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
They were tabled, so they were quick.
Oh, okay, all 3 were tabled?
The acting chair did a great job.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you much.
1 and 2.
All right.
Next up on the agenda, Jones Construction LLC.
Yep, they're holding off on, they're actually asking to be a table as well because they are working on addressing the staff comments.
Yeah, I was looking at that because it looked like engineering has a lot of questions, comments, corrections that need to be made, so.
Yep.
Okay, so we don't
Exactly.
need to do anything to table that, correct? We still have plenty of time.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, number 6, cease and desist, 504 Main Street, and I think.
Oh,
you said you
no.
got
Oh,
some
we
plans
missed
for that?
5. 5 is for the town of Farmington. 17 and 58 Dorset Lane.
So am I looking at an old agenda?
Yeah, that's
Yep.
probably why you're having problems signing in.
Who knows? It could be.
No problem.
So what is it now?
So it's for, right here, 17 and 58 Dorset
Okay.
Lane, regulated
All right.
activity. So we do have a Dylan O'Reilly from the engineering department's here.
Okay. We'll do the Dorset Lane, Town of Farmington.
All right. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Dylan Riley. I'm a civil engineer for the town of Farmington. For this application at Dorset Lane for properties 17 and 58, we are looking to reestablish the storm drainage swale that runs from the 54-inch cross culvert there shown by Bruce. Thank you. We did a similar project in 2001. This project is essentially the same project, just shifted down the swale to the in-between of 17 and 58 lot lines, where we are having some issues that were brought up to us by the homeowner of 17, where the swale no longer seems to be holding the water back during mild to larger storm events, and is flooding out his property. We have quite a few photos and a couple of videos to share to kind of get the extent of the situation.
I think that's the wrong one. That's the, I'll go to the new ones here.
Yeah.
There you go.
So these were taken on the 25th of last month. As you can see with the timestamp, this is the outlet of that 54-inch culvert. As you can see, we have a very high velocity flow coming out. It's very turbulent. We had a lot of erosion issues here in 2001, hence the former project here, where we did some riprap along the banks, and there was some undertow. Here's a video just demonstrating the velocity of the water. As you can see, this is pretty channelized up in this end. I take a lot of photos. Sorry.
What is the date is that? Was that the recent heavy rain we had, or?
This would have been, so this was the 25th, I believe that was a Monday,
Okay.
and the weekend prior we had heavy rains or steady rains throughout the weekend and then continuing on to Monday. These are Monday afternoon. Timestamp is 4:44 p.m. So it was still raining, just not as heavy as it was over the weekend or earlier Monday. So all of this is essentially runoff from up the mountain. And then here you can see the back of property 17, Dorset Lane. You can see the water is intruding onto his lawn area out of the swale, going into Curtin's Pond, or formerly Curtin's Pond. When I was out there, I tried to get as close as I could to the swale where it was failing. That water is approximately somewhere between, I would say, probably 8 inches to a foot thick or deep, perhaps 1.5 feet. So it's a lot of water that's coming out of the swale and spilling onto his property, super saturating his lawn and making it unable for him to maintain it. And then it sheet flows off of his property to where Curtin's Pond was. A tree has fallen, but doesn't seem to be affecting the swale. So again, these photos are just to show the extent of the swale spillage. In this video, you can see the channelized swale. I'm standing right next to it in the brush. And then right about here, you can see where the water spills over the top of its banks and spills onto 17.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. And Bruce, if you could go back to the plan, please. Thank you. So our plan is essentially the same exact plan that we did up the swale in between 19 and 60 back in 2001. We are just moving down the swale, doing the same project further down. Here the call out is to reestablish the swale, so we will do that by removing any debris and sediment within the swale, just as we did in 2001. We'll be placing riprap to curve that erosion to help prevent that from this happening again. And we will rebuild and extend the existing berms on either side of the swale, rebuild where they have failed and extend where they are needed, as was similarly done in 2001. The hatched area shows the approximate area of work.
Is there a reason why you're just stopping the work right at the property line?
It's all channelized up there, and I see no issue there.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you could see from here. Oh, hang on. You
Yeah.
can see from here how well channelized it is through there until it gets past that shed, which is like over in here. So
Yeah.
it's past that area at that point. That's where it
So
comes.
it's fairly well channelized through 58 as well. It really starts degrading once you get to the property line of 17 and 58 is where you start seeing the big change. I just went that far back in case there was anything up the swale that we needed to correct while we were in there doing work. But I don't foresee us going any further than the property line of 60 and 58.
Thank you.
In 2001, this project was done as a maintenance project through the commission. And we would like to repeat that as well. And that's all I have for this project.
Just so everyone's clear, they are asking for this work to be done under the maintenance portion of it. So what that means is what he's considering it as, it's a permitted use as of right, and it's a non-regulated use. The regulations do allow for maintenance relating to any drainage pipe, which existed before the effective date of any municipal regulations adopted pursuant to section 22A, 42A. Provided such pipe is on property which is zoned as residential but does not contain hydrophobic soil or vegetation. The term maintenance as it applies here shall mean to the removal of accumulated leaves, soil, and other debris, whether by hand or machine, while the pipe remains in place. So it's pretty much the same what they did in 2001. They got it under as a maintenance item. So, and
What's the time frame on this?
So our leaf season is coming up, hence why we are trying to get this done sooner rather than later. We have about 3, maybe 4 weeks before we start doing our annual leaf pickup, and we would like to get it done before the spring showers and winter runoff from the snow melt.
We don't seem to have a dry season anymore, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Rich, comments, questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, Dave?
I was just curious, what happened to Curtin's Pond?
Late December 22, the concrete dam had a complete failure. I don't know if Bruce has the photos available to him, but essentially the concrete wall broke down the center and blew out chunks of the wall or dam wall, and the entire pond has been drained as a result. The residents are currently working with DEEP and the state of Connecticut to figure out whether they will be rebuilding the dam to restore the pond or doing a dam removal. But this pond is entirely private, owned by the property owners 11, 15, 17, 58, 54, 52, and 50.
Thank you. I was just curious.
Of course.
Is that it, Dave?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Robert?
The only comment I have is scheduling might be tight because we have to just accept the application tonight, which would kick it back 2 weeks. So hopefully there's still enough time to hold to the schedule, Dylan, that you guys want to do this under.
Yeah, but and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. If this is accepted as a maintenance project, do we have to go to a second meeting, or is
Nope.
it just one meeting?
No, that's the whole point. It's if it's a permitted, they're requesting it to be permitted use as of right and a non-regulated use. So therefore, he's bringing it up in front of you of the commission to make that determination. And if they agree, then there's no application required. It's a non-regulated use, and they go ahead and they do the work.
Okay. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Dylan and Bruce. End of my comments.
Thanks, Robert. Neil?
Just a curiosity, the pictures you showed were pretty dramatic, but it was after a boatload of rain. What is this in a more typical situation?
More typically, it's not as intrusive to the backyard of 17. Bruce, if you could recall some of the photos that view the property of 17 looking more towards where the pond was.
Which ones? The 925 ones or the older ones?
2011.
2011.
Yeah. That's 2023 still.
Yeah. Why are they not pulling up here? Oh, hold on. Here we go.
99.
Here.
Essentially, it still runs over the banks of the swale. It's just not as dramatic as it was in the photos from the 25th. And it's not as encompassing on the property. It still is within the lawn area. It still comes out of the swale. If you look at this area here and compare it to the 2009 aerial from our GIS system, you can see he had fully established lawn all the way up to probably 3, maybe 4 feet from the banks of the pond, and all of that is now fully saturated, unmowable, unmaintainable. It's you sink down a couple of inches the second you get on it, and it's not very conducive to how the property has been historically when the stormwater was held within the swale.
Okay. Was this project on your radar before the recent rainstorms, or did this come up recently? And the reason I ask is there's probably dozens of other places around town that have similar problems right now.
Yeah, it came up more recently. We have been out there in January earlier this year for a similar complaint. 2011, we had those photos are from I forget the storm, but it was from a tropical storm.
Yeah, February of this year.
Yeah, and Bruce had actually taken care of that one in 2011, and we haven't had a problem since 2011 up until when the dam failed. And then once the dam failed, the homeowner reported seeing it happen more often. We were attributing it to larger storm events, but it was occurring during more mild events, during your 10, 25, and 50-year events, rather than just your 50, 100, 200-year events. So it has increased, and we want to get ahead of it rather than get behind it and wait for it to occur constantly.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Neil?
Yeah, nothing further.
Okay, Ned?
I just need a little clarification. Is this the town doing this work?
Yeah, it would be the town doing the work, just as we did in 2001.
Okay, so if the pond is the private ownership of the association, why doesn't something like this come into the responsibility of the association?
The association doesn't own the swale coming in. The town of Farmington has an easement over of the swale.
I see.
Yeah.
So the easement is
and then
okay.
2001 set the precedence for
Okay,
this.
I didn't catch the part that there's an easement on this, so I
Yeah.
understand now. Okay. That's I would agree with everything you said, that this is just maintenance, and I would agree with that.
Yeah. And if everything goes to plan, our maintenance that we did 22 years ago is still holding up rather well. I would hope that we would be able to do this once and get out at least for another 20 years.
Is that it, Ned?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, Karen?
You.
Any questions, comments?
No, thank you.
Okay, Bruce, some of the water, doesn't this start over by Miss Porter's on Mountain Road?
No, this is the mountain, if I'm not mistaken. So when you look at this, what happens is, so here's Curtin's Pond, here's the swale that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Comes up through here, crosses under, runs up along Diamond Glen.
Okay.
Comes on up and actually ultimately picks up by the reservoir, but it also picks up a lot of this water along this section and Colt Highway. It all kind of just drains off surface water into here and then going down through.
Because I know that this area and then off of Mountain Road was when Miss Porter's was doing some of their work, like to put in one of the fields over there. I mean, people were talking about water, so this seems to be a very critical area where there tends to be a lot of water coming down. So, okay. I just wasn't sure if this actually flowed in that direction, so.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's all related to the same mountain. So it's all the hill. The hill just runs that whole thing, and just water just comes off that like crazy. So
I guess, Dylan, in terms of what's out at the site right now, in terms of the pond, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of water. I mean, a little bit of water, maybe some standing water, but it looks like a lot of muck. Is that the case out there?
The current condition of where the pond formerly was, Bruce, if you go to my last photo from this year, I just took that from the road. I believe it's between the homes 11 and 19, just from the road. So they have let there's two main points where water comes in and into the pond. That is at 17, and there's the Gunner Culvert crossing at 15. The homeowners, because they haven't come up with a formal plan yet to determine the future of Curtin's Pond, have since just let it channelize through the pond and let vegetation grow throughout the spring, summer, and now we're in the fall. So that's essentially what it is just a marshy grassland at the moment. But again, the residents, I actually spoke with one of them today. I was out there for a separate road issue. She was explaining that they are working actively with DEEP and the state of Connecticut to find a solution here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly have any heartburn in terms of sort of following past protocol about putting this in as a maintenance project. The swale exists. There's a problem with the swale. It needs to be repaired. So I don't have much of a problem with that. I guess that's about all I have. Well, I guess the bigger question is whether or not other folks agree with that. I heard a couple people specifically mention it. So Rich, I'll go back to you. Do you think this is maintenance project? We need an application. What's your take?
No, I'm fine with considering this a maintenance project and you know, wanting it to move ahead in the short time that we have this fall.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
I agree.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
Yeah, with some hesitation, I agree. I think the amount of work that's done to restore back to the 2001 plan is a bit more than we usually see for maintenance, routine maintenance and restoration work. But it is, you know, it is the town's obligation to maintain the structure and the water flow. So I agree it can be handled as a no permit or no application required maintenance activity.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank you, Ned.
I agree.
Okay. Karen?
I'll go with the consensus and agree also.
Okay. And I feel the same way. So would somebody like to make a motion that this is a maintenance project? And Bruce, you can cite what section of the statute.
Yep. Got it right now.
And it will not require an application. So what's the section of the statutes again?
That's going to be section 4.6.
A6.
4A6.
Okay.
So moved, Ned.
So moved by Eisner.
All right. Second by Ned.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve this as a maintenance project under section 4A6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining. Good luck working through the next little wetland areas because I guess we've got a bunch of rain coming in on Friday or Saturday.
Yep.
So have fun.
Unfortunately, it has been a very wet summer.
Well, what are we, about 9 or 10 inches above normal rainfall already this year?
Yeah, we're 13. We're 13
yeah.
inches. 13 inches in September. So
okay, so now that I have the right item and the right agenda up here, so the next item is Town of Farmington Mountain Spring Road, the right of way between 154 and 164 Mountain Spring Road.
Right. Again, for the record, my name is Dylan Riley, Town of Farmington civil engineer. This project at Mountain Spring Road between the properties of approximately 164 up to the southern edge of 155 is a drainage project where one of our cross culverts seems to be undersized for the amount of flow that it's been getting. The cross culvert services a swale, a drainage swale that serves much of the eastern side of Mountain Spring through its respective section. This extends from approximately property 164, 154, 140, as high as 136 in terms of span of coverage. This swale in a normal season is dry throughout the year, with the exception of larger storm events, from your mild to large storm events, and water will trickle during smaller storm events through the culvert. This year we have seen much higher rainfall. And we've had a lot more intense storms, and we've had numerous occasions where the road has overtopped in terms of stormwater building up behind on the eastern side of the road, overtopping the road and finding its way through the woods down to the culvert crossing at the driveway of 155 Mountain Spring, and causing damage there for that resident. We are also experiencing some damage. Bruce, if you could stop right there, where you see the water. Just for context, this is the September 13th storm, where we experienced a 200-year storm event throughout the town of Farmington. 4 inches of rain in 2 or less hours classifies it as a 200 to 500-year storm event. We'll go with 200 for now. Where you see the water rushing over, we're starting to see undermining along the edge of the roadway. So this also makes it a public safety issue as well. We are seeing the high velocity of the water going down that slope, churn and start eroding behind the curb there as well. In this photo, this photo was taken by one of the residents over there, right in the middle of the storm. And as you can see, the center line is completely covered, and this extends pretty far, well past property 164's driveway, which you can kind of see the mailbox there below the yellow sign. It extends approximately between 150 or the property line of 154 and the northern property line of 164. So when that water overtops the road, it doesn't make it into the designated channel that runs through the 181 property to get it through to the culvert safely without causing damage, property damage. So when it runs through the woods in that particular area, like it is in this photo, it ends up sheet flowing, and it ends up getting to the driveway of 155, approximately 250 to 300 feet down from Mountain Spring Road. And then it follows the driveway all the way down to that gentleman has a cross culvert there that services the outflow of the pond there at 181, as well as this culvert crossing and the culvert crossing immediately north as well. So our project is aimed to reduce the overtopping conditions of the road. Here you can see the beginning of the undermining right there where Bruce's mouse is. Thank you, Bruce. With each storm and with each time it overtops, it does get worse. So we're looking to do this work hopefully before leaf season as well. This is the road during normal conditions, no rain, no water, flooding. So you can see it's highly vegetated. That's the swale. So that again, it's a dry seasonal swale, only servicing storm runoff from the mountain during mostly medium and large intensity storms. Again, during low flow or low intensity storms, you'll see a small trickle of water flow through the pipe. The current pipe is a 15-inch. We have hydraulically sized it for a 36-inch to meet Army Corps standards and self-verification. Here is the plan. The new pipes are colored in red. The existing pipe to remain is the teal blue color. And then we have an existing corrugated metal pipe that runs under the road that we would like to remove just because they tend to fail over time, and we like to take them out whenever we can. We are adding several catch basins to the road. We are adding two south of the driveway of 155 to catch runoff from the road prior to the driveway to help curb erosion of that driveway. During larger storm events, the driveway will actually get overtopped as well from the runoff of the road, further eroding parts of the driveway and adding to the problem at hand. We are adding a catch basin just off the road. Yep, right there. To help reduce the likelihood of the roadway overtopping again. That will be placed about, I believe it's about a foot from the gutter below that elevation, so that we have a foot of freeboard between that and the roadway. That's why we are keeping this 15-inch corrugated metal pipe to help reduce the likelihood of the roadway overtopping. And then we are adding this longer trunk line to service all of our roadway catch basins. So all of the water will be redirected from that 15-inch corrugated metal pipe to that 24-inch HDPE pipe that will be taken to that double catch basin where we have an additional 24-inch outlet, again sistered with the 36-inch as shown there. As part of our work, we will also be redoing the plunge pools on either side to mitigate erosion and sediment getting into the pipes, as this is a really flat area. So we are trying to mitigate the maintenance of us going there and cleaning them out or getting filled during longer drawn out storms that may last like it did a couple weekends ago, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, where you can experience problems where debris gets into the pipes and clogs them up. That is essentially what we're doing here, is we're just trying to get the water into its channel so that it no longer flows down the driveway or through the woods to the driveway of 155, getting to his culvert crossing and eroding much of his driveway. But again, we have the public safety issue of the roadway being eroded at that curve there between the catch basins, between the two double catch basins on the top of the page or on the westerly side of Mountain Road. Not going for a maintenance application on this project.
Thanks, Dylan. Rich,
Of course.
start with you. Rich, any comments, questions, concerns?
I guess I have two questions right off the bat. Where is this in relationship to the pull off that we took a look at for with the
Land trust.
land trust? Yeah.
Here's Talcott Notch. All right, here's where they're doing the work. The pull off is down.
Okay, so it's quite a ways away.
Yeah, over here.
Okay.
Right over here. Yeah, here's the land trust property, so right here. So you're probably, and it's not in the same drainage pattern either, because it's a low point here, but you're 1,500 feet away. So
okay. Okay, and then the other question I have is what are the wetland resources in this area? I mean, it looks for the most part you're doing work in the roadway or directly adjacent to it. So the wetland resource is the stream that we're discharging to the west of Mountain Spring.
I guess the wetland resource is the swale and the cross culvert.
The water comes off through here, you can see it.
Yeah.
Runs in a swale along the east side of the road into the basin or into the cross culvert and then comes out to the west side and flows down to there. So there's wetlands here and there's a wetland on this side as well.
Okay. And in normal, I want to say before 2023, this was an intermittent water course.
Yeah, before 2023, again this summer, it's been extremely wet. This has been more seasonal, depending on rain and rainfall intensities and runoff from the mountain. That's really the only time you'll see water running through this culvert.
Okay. Yeah, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Rich. Dave?
Yeah, I guess my only question was kind of what Rich was getting at, where are the wetlands? The application notes, I don't know, 2,300 square feet of what direct wetland impact. I think those are probably the 2 plunge pools.
Yeah, so that encompasses the plunge pools and then the pipe through the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Dave. Robert?
Only comment is it appears to be very necessary work, so I look forward to accepting the application and moving quickly on our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Neil?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay. Ned?
No, I don't have any questions. I think it was well explained
Okay, Karen?
and needed.
Questions?
No.
Okay, can you blow that map up a little bit, please?
Which one? You want the, all right, I got that one here. This one here?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay. Seeing as how I'm not finding a number of inverts that show other than like invert matching existing. So for the line coming in right there.
This one?
So are we picking up water and moving it up to, I guess, like the north side of Mountain Spring Road?
Yeah, so that's the west side of Mountain Spring Road. So your top of the page
Okay.
is west.
Okay.
Yep. So ideally, we want the water to flow through those 24-inch pipes along the west side of the road. That 15-inch corrugated metal pipe is going to be more of an overflow to try and get water to that 36-inch culvert, if there's enough capacity there to take it. That's why it's there to remain. It's also off the road, so we're not worrying about it collapsing and causing issues with the road. Being a corrugated metal pipe, as they tend to do after 50 plus years. That is why we're removing that existing 15-inch that's highlighted in green. That's why we're removing that one. So we're essentially moving the trunk line of this drainage area to the west side of the road from the current east side of the road to utilize that existing pipe as a overflow.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure the reason I'm asking is because seeing the 18-inch pipes there, and then you've got the teal color, the corrugated pipe is 15 inches. I wanted to make sure we weren't putting an 18-inch pipe into a 15-inch pipe.
Yeah.
And looking
Yeah.
for trouble.
Yeah, no. So those 18s feed into the 24 that runs from all the way up just south of the driveway of 155 all the way to the left side of the page. And that will run all the way to that double catch basin where you see the double outlets there. And we did the double outlets so that we're not adding all of that runoff from the road into that 36-inch culvert crossing, where that culvert crossing is that 36-inch pipe is really meant to take the flow from the swale, not from the road.
So if the 15-inch pipe is going to remain there,
the 15-inch under the road goes away. It's
Right,
just that 15-inch in teal.
But I'm just trying to figure out where would the excess water come from? Does there have to be some changes in terms of the inverts on that catch basin, the proposed catch basin?
The proposed catch basin there wasn't one previously, so we're doing all new catch basins throughout this project.
Okay.
So we will be doing a bit of change. The invert matching existing note there, I can't shift that teal pipe up or down at all, so I have to match it there. And then
But
depending on
the 24-inch pipe or 18-inch pipe going across the road, that's going to be deeper, correct?
yeah, that's going to be deeper
Okay.
as long as I get the pitch and the cover for it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what the drainage flow is going to be like and the capacities. That's all.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, hydraulically, we're sized for a 50-year storm per Army Corps engineering guidelines with the 36-inch pipe. Where the 15-inch pipe cross culvert came from, I have no idea. But hydraulically sized, it should be a 36-inch pipe crossing the road.
Okay.
And then everything else we upsized from what we typically use just because of how flat the slopes are on the pipes to get additional capacity, especially for those larger storm events where the roadway gets overtopped. Because we design for a 50-year storm event. I can't necessarily design for a 200 or 500-year storm event, but those 24-inch pipes will help mitigate that to hopefully a minimum if we were to
Like
get
I said, I just wanted to make sure I understood what the flow was going from culvert to culvert and pipe to pipe. So you've answered my questions. So thank you. I appreciate that. So I guess the first thing on the agenda for this is to accept the application. Somebody want to
No, thank you.
make a motion to accept the application?
So moved, Ned.
Is there a second?
Second, Rich.
Okay, I think probably people have been out in this area enough. I mean, I don't think I need to see a site visit out there. Not that I could go, well, this one I could probably do if I stay on the road, but is anybody looking for a site visit on this one?
No.
Nope.
It doesn't sound like it. And then Bruce, do we need to do significance on this too?
Yes, we do, Chair.
Okay, so I would say this is not significant. That's my take on it. I mean, it is replacing some existing work that's already been done that appears to be significantly undersized. So just quickly, I'll run through everybody, see if you think it's a significant or not. Rich?
Non-significant.
Dave?
Significant.
Robert?
Non-significant.
Neil?
I agree.
Ned?
Not.
Karen?
Give me the short answer on what significant means in this context.
Significant raises the bar in terms of what we would be looking at. If we think, though, there may be a significant impact on the wetlands, it steps up to a public hearing. There's a whole process there. I mean, it's conceivable that somebody might have felt that way with a brand new project, but this is primarily maintenance and replacing some existing culverts, things of that nature. So it's work that's already been done. So I think people are saying that they don't really feel as though this amounts to
Yes, I agree with that. I just needed to understand what it meant in this particular context. That was a great explanation. Thank you very much, and I agree.
Okay, and as do I. So if somebody want to make a motion, this is not a significant activity?
So moved by Dave.
Okay. Ned, was that you seconding in there?
I'll second.
Okay. So I have a motion on the floor. This is a non-significant activity. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. So I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. I'll be there.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we're up to cease and desist 504 Main Street, correct?
504 Main Street. Yes, sir. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. A second here. All right. We have Ian Cole on here. I think he's still on.
I'm still.
There
I'm
he
still
is.
here.
There I see him. He's not hiding. We received this plan this morning. So pretty much everyone's seen this for the first time. I kind of looked at it quick this afternoon just to get a quick little look at it. But I'll let Ian go ahead and do his presentation.
Sure. Thanks. For the record, my name is Ian Cole, professional soil scientist, professional wetland scientist. I'm here tonight on behalf of 504 Main Street to resolve their notice of violation for the unpermitted clearing of the upland review area adjacent to the wetland boundary. When we last left last month, we kind of went over a memo that was generated to basically document, what the disturbances were and the limits of them, and to ensure that, no encroachments into the wetland proper had occurred. Our marching orders from there were to come back with a type of restoration plan that would adequately protect the wetlands and also provide some accommodations for future development of this area, which was the original intent of the clearing. So to that fact, to those points, went back with the applicant and met with town staff and had some back and forth. And we basically came up with four main action items. You'll see on basically the action items here are Bruce, do you by any chance have the memo from September 19th? There's some photos in there that I think provide some good context.
Your memo?
Yes.
All right. September. Let me go back to our folders here. 504 Main Street. Wetland report, survey, and the memo update.
Memo update.
Okay.
On page maybe page 5 of 7, photo 4, I think. Let's see.
Photo
Next,
4. Gotcha.
yeah, that photo there. So this is kind of just to provide context for the commission. To the right of the photo where the silt fence is, at the toe of the slope there, that's the limits of the jurisdictional wetland boundary. Basically, this is the upper limits of the floodplain of the I'm gonna butcher the name of the Quabic River, which is a tributary, right, that goes to the Farmington. The area to the left of the photo, that's the upland review area. So part of one of the main parts of the restoration here is in the foreground here, where you see some of the erosion and control blankets and the person standing. This is an area that there was some ground disturbance and there was a lot of garbage that was being removed. The area was temporarily stabilized with some erosion control blankets. It's an area that before some of the site grading occurred higher in the landscape, was a point of kind of concentration. So overland flow kind of ran along the side of the building and then made its way over here. And then you get some rilling effect. That's been kind of mitigated with the hay bales and the regrading up above. But it's still kind of this irregular slope. And for the long-term stability of the site, it was decided that between basically wetland flag 11 and wetland flag 9, as was shown on the PDF earlier, that area would be peeled back. Essentially, a little bowl would come out, and what it would look like is essentially more or less, if you see where the person is in the photo 4, that would more or less, just for visual purposes, be kind of the new top of slope, and that would be graded down 3-to-1 in a nice uniform slope, so that you wouldn't basically be creating any future points of concentration. And it would just be a more stable environment. This would then be seeded with the traditional upland restoration New England erosion control seed mix, and then there would be new erosion control blankets overlaid on top of that. And then within this area would also be incorporated as part of the overall 25-foot buffer planting zone. And what that will look like, if you go go down to basically, if you're looking at this photo, and we're also going to look at photo number 7, see all the scrubby area that kind of parallels the silt fence? That zone's about 25 feet wide. And so what we're proposing is basically, if you notice everything to the left of that slope is the area that was established grass and was the area that was restored up to this point. So moving forward, what they would come in is regrade this area out this is all right now, all the scrubby area in that 25-foot zone. It's a combination of Eastern black nightshade, American pokeweed, docks, and beggar tick, basically weeds. So we would remove those, regrade that area out. And then Bruce, if you could scroll down to photo number 7. And if you want, we could stop and look at this is again. So if you see, the grass area would stay to the right of the hay bales is still kind of an active work. So they're repairing the roof of this building and doing some new gutter work and stuff to better secure the building. Eventually that area will be regrassed also. Moving forward, the other part of the plan this stockpile of soil will be removed off site. Some incidental may be left to backfill behind the hay bales when they're done with their construction activities for the building to reestablish some additional lawn, but otherwise that's gone as part of this. But in photo 7, if you look at photo 7, you can see the change in the grass. So the area that we're talking about planting is basically all that scrubby area that's coming in. And this is a nice flat zone, a nice thick zone. We're picking 4 shrubs. They're typical shrubs that are commonly found adjacent to these floodplains. Basically, one of them is shadblow serviceberry. This is a tall shrub that's going to be able to grow, give you some height. So that will be a backstop to this planting plan. And then the infill to that is basically some chokeberries, some dogwoods, and some northern brush honeysuckle. We're proposing 45 shrub plantings of the 4-foot tall, the tallest container size that's available from New England Plants. There's enough time left here in the growing season to secure this material, to go get the 45 plantings, to get the ENS controls, to get the erosion blankets, to get the seed mix. I know that Val has equipment on site. He's prepared to get this installed this growing season, and then we would monitor it and come back to the commission by June 15th of next year. So basically go through the early part of next growing season and come back to the commission with a report to tell them, the plans were successful, that they're doing well, any remedial actions that need to be taken, do any of these plantings need to be replaced? And most importantly, as I highlight to Val, my concern for this area, I'm glad to see that there's been no evidence of it coming in, but there is Japanese knotweed adjacent to this specific area on the other side of the property. And I've kind of gone through it with him, some best management practices he can do to make sure he doesn't kind of commingle any of the materials, so nothing unnecessarily propagates over here. But I told him specifically that's something that's going to need to be addressed and make sure that it doesn't take a foothold in here. Outside of that, I think planting 45 shrubs in this zone is kind of a nice robust feature and will also allow him the flexibility for not having any conflicts in the future when he comes back to the commission for site improvements to expand future parking. And with that, the typical site improvements such as, the water quality features that go along with that. And then I guess lastly, just to keep in context, there's some ConDOT drainage that kind of bookends the north and south side of the upland review area on this site. Both of those drainage features, or at least the one that's immediately adjacent to his building where it outlets, is getting pretty close to failing the head wall to that. And the applicant is at least had some cursory engagement with ConDOT about the potential of how it would go about replacing that structure, but it's probably a case of it will fail and then they'll have to come in and replace it because it's probably a long-term project because it's a significant drainage way that pipe conveys. So in a nutshell, that's the plan, and the 4 big items: remove the soil stockpile that's up near the road, regrade between wetland flags 9 and 11 to a 3-to-1 slope, remove, whatever remaining inherited debris and garbage. So a little bit of it left down in that kind of pokeberry, he would remove that and put that to the landfill as appropriate. And then that establishment of that 25-foot upland buffer planting zone that consists of the 45 shrubs, the E&S control, and the seed mix. And then coming back to the commission with a report on the success standards of that through the first growing season. That's what the applicant's proposing to resolve the notice of violation. Be happy to answer any questions.
Rich, comments, questions, concerns?
No, I don't have any questions on the restoration. The condition of that existing drainage pipe and the failure of that block retaining wall, that concerns me, because they're going to have to come back to address that, and it just seems to be a bad situation. But as far as getting the disturbance buttoned up for the fall, I think this goes a long ways towards that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Dave?
I had a question about the scale of this drawing, where you have, it says 25-foot buffer plant zone. That looks about twice as wide as the area that extends up.
Yes, this is a graphic cartoon. It's not a generated CAD drawing or any of that sort. In the time of in the interest of trying to get a plan together where the applicants could reasonably go out and get some plants later in the growing season here. We just, it's a graphic that was thrown together. So yeah, no, this is not an engineered drawing in any way, shape, or form.
So, but it's meant that the 25 feet is that thinner section.
Yes. And the red dash line that bulbs out. So the part where the 3-to-1 grading is may extend farther out than the 25-foot planting zone. So that's what that was trying to capture. Does that make sense?
Yep. And so there would be what, 45 shrubs, you said?
Yes. Basically, that area comes out to about 2,500 square feet. And when you're, using planting charts, there's a kind of a standard one that we all use, this equidistant planting chart. And you take an 8-foot on center using like 4-foot tall shrubs, about 8 feet on center. It basically spits out a number of, that you need 44 plants. So I just rounded up to 45.
Okay. I guess one of my concerns is that there were a lot of trees that were removed from the 150-foot setback area. So you're taking away dozens and dozens of trees and replacing them with 45 shrubs. I'm not sure that's appropriate compensation, but go on. And usually I think we have more than one growing season monitoring to make sure that these species do survive. So we might want to do at least one more growing season for your monitoring. That's all I have for now.
Thanks, Dave. Robert?
No questions.
Okay, Neil?
No comments or questions.
Ned?
How long, you said the area that has not been planted, it's because they need work area to doing roof repairs and other building repairs. So how long till those repairs are done and that area can be seeded?
I do not know the answer to that question. I could find out though. I know that they're actively working on it. It's not something that's sitting idle, just because I personally live around the corner, so I drive by this area almost daily. But I can certainly ask and get that answer for you. I know he's actively working on securing the building, but I have not been given a time frame of when that work would be completed.
Okay.
kind of what was conveyed to the applicant was they had a strong interest of delaying restoration so that things could be tied in together with DOT drainage easement project. And we had to do a lot of convincing to have them understand that, you know, those are two processes that are on two wildly different timelines. You know, that quite honestly, the replacement of that drainage, that could be something that could be several years out. And, you know, obviously this area needs to be restored and can't be left in its state. So the idea is to secure the site. And he does want to come back before the commission with a plan set update to show improvements for some additional parking. That's what he has told me. But he's just not in a position to do that at the moment. And again, to not delay any activities from happening on the property that would be to the benefit in terms of securing that thing. You know, he tabled those ideas because, quite frankly, he wasn't at a point where they were formalized enough to come before the commission with a full set plan for what he needs for parking and things like that.
Okay, I agree with Dave in that there were a lot of trees removed here. But I do understand that you know, that I've actually been involved with renting some of that space of the building, and I understand there is more need for parking, but I would think when he comes back with a parking plan, that I don't know how we would do this, but I mean, require his parking plan to have some trees included in it to, you know, at the edges of the parking areas or something like that.
To basically infill what's left over that's not needed.
Yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Nat. Karen?
Thank you.
I mean, I guess I'm sort of in the same boat as Ned and Dave. Because again, you know, part of the issue is that this was work that was done, and you look at the 150-foot upland review area, and nobody came in to us to talk about doing anything over there. The work was just done, and things were clear cut. So I know the bigger issue right now is to try to get the area around the wetlands reestablished. 3-to-1 grade is good. The buffer plant zone, you know, it helps. But I just think there's probably some additional work that's going to need to be done. I don't know if other people think that, you know, we can maybe do that as far as what kind of landscaping might be required as far as any type of parking that goes there. That's the one thing that's still kind of gnawing at me a little bit. Just because, you know, came in with a chainsaw and basically cleared the site, so we have to deal with the remnants of it. The other thing, and I don't know, Ian, if you can answer this or not, but do you know what the status is of property ownership here?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. I have been asking about that. My understanding is that 504 Main Street does not own this property at the moment. They are currently and actively pursuing it to get ownership of it because they have an interest in it, you know, that it's valuable to them and that it allows them space to do these things like increase parking and whatnot. But my understanding is that it's owned in a trust with many people, and so it's taking some time to get through probate court, but that the applicant's still actively engaged in the securing of that property. So that basically 504 Main Street, who cleared the property, does not own the property.
Yep. So Bruce, where are we at this point in time then? You know, there's work that is being proposed, which I think starts the process. But we also have issues of the land ownership. Is there any type of authorization to do the work on somebody else's property? Yeah, I mean,
That would be something I
Where
think
are
for
we
him.
at?
Yeah, I think that would be one. I think that'd be for something for him to consult with his attorney, because I wouldn't know where they situation in probate. If there's an actual trustee on the property, then maybe the trustee can issue a letter saying they approve this the restoration plan. So I would put that back to the owner. I can actually chat with him about that.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is I don't want to start approving something, you know, if we're going to go along with this, that's on somebody else's property without their okay. I think this is a good start for what we're talking about trying to get done. You know, what are you looking at, you know, from a time frame as to how long the growing season still is?
You know, I've talked to some of my buddies who like their entire bag is just doing restoration plantings. And you know, I said, how long can you really, you know, how long are you guys pushing it on your wetland restoration projects? And he basically said, like, you know, he doesn't like to go past November 15th to plant a shrub in the ground because he says most likely it's going to get frosty and maybe pop out of the ground. So, you know, what we had said kind of in this plan was to secure these plants and have them in 2 weeks even prior to that. So, you know, in a perfect world, I would like to see basically all of this site work done by November 1st. You know, if the applicant was allowed to move forward to do so. But I understand, and you bring up some very valid points. I understand all of your concerns, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think with what's being proposed is a good starting point. I don't think that's going to be the final solution. But I think we've got to have something in writing from somebody. I mean, in terms of being able to do the work on that property. I mean, that's just my take, Bruce. I mean, am I crazy on that one, or?
No, I agree. I mean, I think what I'd like to see, hopefully, if the commission can give them direction. So far, it sounds like to me that the 25-foot buffer is adequate. I guess that would be number one. All right. So is that good? Two, it sounds like they want some more trees. Okay. And three, we want something in writing from the current property owner saying that they have reviewed this plan and approve it. So, I mean, if I can get those three, that way we can go back, the owner can then feel comfortable, and then he can have Ian make the changes. He can get the approval, and hopefully at the next meeting, we have everything for you guys all laid out.
Bruce, my apologies. I may have missed one of the things. I got the tree species. I got the writing, and what was the third item?
Well, sorry, there was one. Sorry, there was more trees. I forgot about the growing season. Someone made mention that they want a little more growing season review.
2 years. Yep.
Yep. And then the owner of the property, the trustee, having them give approval for Val to actually plant this plan or implement the plan. And then the fourth one would be
permission to do so.
Yeah. And then the fourth one would be if the commission is set with that 25-foot buffer. If they're comfortable with that, I think at least we could leave this meeting with a plan of attack, and then we can just, as long as we hit those items, the next meeting, if you guys can provide everything to the commission, hopefully we get it approved, and then maybe in the meantime you can check with New England Wetland Plants, make sure everything is in stock, so we can say, all right, at the next meeting, if everything's addressed, we'll order them on the next. I keep saying we, but you'll order them on the next day, and they get planted right after. So we should meet that November 15th deadline.
That's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, again, I think it is a critical issue about who owns the property and can he even, or technically, can he even go on there to do the work?
I agree.
So,
Sorry about that. I dropped off for a second.
You're allowed. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what I'm hearing is this is an okay first step. But I think that ultimately what's going to end up happening is that if they And again, the question then extends, if they don't come back to do the parking, then, you know, what do we do with some of the additional trees that people are talking about? Because again, it's not going to make any sense to plant trees that are going to have to be taken down to be able to put the parking in. So somebody's got to have an idea where the parking is going to be, so that if any trees are going in, and maybe more up towards the front of the site. But at the same time, they come in with new parking plans, there may be more significant landscaping than you might normally find with a parking lot, just to compensate for what had previously been taken down.
The commission can make that determination at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
if they're talking about more trees, what about do they want maybe some trees along the top of the slope to kind of help delineate that 25-foot buffer? I mean, is that something the commission, I think, would like to see? Or do they want these trees more scattered around the property?
My thought was scattered more along the property. I don't know about Dave and like Ned, but what's your
More
take,
trees
Ned?
in more places.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
And Ned?
Yeah, I think more trees, more places, and then, you know, like a tree island, if they're gonna go ahead with this increase in the parking, you know, have an idea where it is, and so that, like we were saying, that we don't want these trees to be removed or have to be, you know, move them, because that usually doesn't work out so well. And so, but more trees, I think the brushes and the bush can be laid out so that they're you know, help delineate the top of the slope and where the 25-foot buffer is. That's
What
all I
about,
have.
yeah, Ian, do you think, has Val, I know he's never expressed to me when he plans on coming back, but any idea when he think he'd be coming back with a plan for like a parking lot expansion or whatever he's looking to do?
He was not able to confirm a date of when that would be. Yeah, he in his mind, I believe he thinks the sequence would be the conduit easement would be replaced, and then he'd replace the parking, because he doesn't want to replace, because you know the drainage would be underneath the parking. So
Great.
you know he's you know nervous about putting restoration in that would have to be replaced. He's nervous about putting in this that would have to be replaced. He's nervous. So, you know, he's got to start somewhere. I'm in agreement with the commissioner's responses here of, you know, it's a good start. I think there's a lot of opportunities in the future for any future site improvements that are made, that there's some good conditions on those that afford some additional protection, some additional plantings, some additional buffering. And some of that can also be in the form of, you know, let's say they have to put in some water quality features, you know, those can be included in those landscaping plans. And so, you know, while those are engineered features, they're soft features. And so those, in addition to the buffer, so you start to fill that 150-foot area with some more things that are just other than just parking, if that makes sense. So that's, I think that's kind of where we're working towards. If that drainage easement wasn't in here, that would make things a lot easier, I feel like, because you know, he'd probably be able to come in. A parking plan at that point would not be a very big ask to formalize. You know, I can also see the argument, you know, we talked about real briefly. I know when me and Todd Clark were out here and we were talking about this drainage replacement, you know, just the constructability of it, right? It's a pretty big pipe. It's a pretty sizable construction. It's down a little bit. You know, it's going to be a good size excavation. I can see, you know, they're going to probably need a 50-foot wide easement in their temporary construction easement just to do the activity. So, you know, that's something to consider too. But all that in consideration, you know, the point of conversation has been that he just can't wait, you know, for all those things to happen, because they might not happen for some time. And during that phase, this area, you know, it's convalescing, and I think the work that he's taken place has done some good effort towards that, and I think these additional measures will make it even a little bit tighter back there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the one thing, if you talk to the owner, if he can at least give you an idea of where he thinks the parking might be. You know, is it going to be 50 feet off the front, 100 feet off, Route 10, and it's going to be mostly in that cleared area, it gives a little more flexibility as to where you might be able to put some of the other trees in at this point in time and not conflict with what he may want to do in the future. And so if he's got a rough idea as to
Understood.
rough idea.
He doesn't need an exact point of
No,
reference, but
no.
if he can get more space, get more space. I got it.
No, he had mentioned to me that the more parking he can get, the better. So maybe he works with the engineer, takes that plan, looking at our setback regulations for parking, draws a square and says, this is the ultimate parking area. And then based on that square area of impervious, the water quality is X, and here would that be. So it would be two simple things, and maybe that's enough that he can get to the commission.
And he wouldn't be held to necessarily that rectangular area, assuming it's a rectangle, but again, it's to help guide what can possibly be planted on the site at this point in time.
Yep.
Help offset what may need to be done later. That's all.
Understood. That makes sense. Some level of concept so that it's more formulated than what's shown.
Yeah, I don't think we're looking for a final plan, especially in light of the fact that if the state's got to come in and redo all the drainage there, I mean, yeah, I understand it doesn't make sense to try to figure out where you're going to put a parking lot in right now and get ready to install it, but you want to coordinate that with the work that's going to be done on the piping. So
I agree that it's a reasonable ask to generalize an area that could be used for the potential of future parking now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is that a good marching order then, Bruce, you think?
I think so. The only thing I would add to it is that the commission should be thinking, and was as well as the applicant, with this schedule, with the planting schedule closing in quickly. And again, I don't know the engineer's time frame on projects. I mean, I don't know if he can drop everything he's doing right now and draw something up for him before the next meeting. But if not, we should be thinking ahead in terms of when, if there's a phase one, like and at least getting those slope plantings installed now. You know what I mean? That way we beat it, or at some point we have to say, look, we're not going to get these done. This is going to be a spring planting.
No, this needs to be a fall planting.
Okay, exactly. And that's what I'm trying to understand, because I want to make sure that the engineer gets back to him and says, I can't do that right now. There's no way I'm going to be able to get you guys a plan in 2 weeks showing you everything. So if he can't do that, and that kicks off, that gives you practically only one meeting left to review everything, approve it, and it gives him like 2 weeks to buy the plants and install everything. So it's really pushing everything up against the wall.
It is.
So, okay.
Okay, so I think we have sort of a path going forward on this right now. And you're clear on it?
Yeah, I have my notes of the basically the 3 revisions to the plan, and then the 2 concept asks from here. And I'll follow up with Todd Clark also, Bruce, to kind of put an earworm in his head and let him know that people will be talking to him, and I'll impress upon the applicant that he's going to have to put some pressure and heat on to get some plans drawn up and to give some thought to these things to put this to bed.
Exactly. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian.
Have a good night.
You too. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Next item on the agenda is cease and desist for 1509 Farmington Avenue.
1509. There's no change on that. The applicant has just dropped off an application that we'll have on the next agenda for a determination. The applicant's looking for the commission to make a determination as of right. So I'll be putting together that application for the next agenda with a full agenda review.
If I can be so bold, has right to do what?
To do the work that he did. Hey, that's all, you know.
I'm just asking.
And I am just telling you, so what the application says. So, okay.
Okay.
So we have
Yeah, hey,
that.
Bruce, and I would remind him that the commission told him to hire a competent environmental attorney, because this guy has no idea what he's done and what he needs to do.
I've stressed that numerous times, and I stressed him to, on top of that, to get a consultant, survey, wetland consultant to help him walk him through. And he's been talking to some people. I've gotten a few calls, but there's been no action. So.
And all right, Bruce, I would just say, to the extent possible, we probably need to keep monitoring the site, particularly if we continue to get rain, because there's no doubt that with every rain event, there's more sediment getting washed into the Farmington River.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
that's it on this one right now?
That's it for that one.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is election of officers. Robert, you want to chat a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I spoke with those of you that were at the site walk and have spoken to a few of you. But for those of you that I didn't reach out to, I have recently taken another job that has regular meetings on the third Wednesday of the month. So I'll be missing likely half of our meetings. So with that, it may not make sense for me to continue in the vice chair capacity.
But if you were selected, you would honorably accept, correct?
If the commission feels that I could still do a reasonable job 50% of the time, then I'd be willing. I certainly don't want to leave the commission altogether, but I'd be willing to, for the meetings, I'm here, be vice chair, but it may not be in the best interest of the commission.
Okay, and I mean, from my perspective, I've also thought about it, and apparently some arrangements have been made. So I plan on staying on the commission for several more years, at least until my term is up, which I think is what, 4 years away or 3 years away. So if you guys still want to put up with me, I'm happy to continue. Ned, I don't know about you, what your take is, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll be here for a while. With the last email that went out, somebody there was a copy of the bylaws included.
Yes.
Now there was something in there that said if somebody misses 50% of the meetings
without an excuse.
Without an excuse, okay. Well, that's your call. That also says that in the meeting, in the bylaws.
No, you are correct. I mean, because part of it was that the goal was to have people, be able to attend and fulfill the obligation. I mean, I know now with Karen here, and we get regular participation with her. She's going to be appointed at a number of meetings, and her input's going to be valuable as well. So
thank you.
I say that because I think I know a number of your family members.
Everybody knows a number of my family members.
How can you live in Farmington and not know of Vibber? Come on.
Now, are you part of the Bill Vibber clan? Or are you part of Timmy and Margie and
Marty is my husband. I married Marty. He and Timmy.
My condolences.
Wow.
No, I like Marty because I've brought our cars over there for emissions and stuff like that. So, and I know that Timmy and Margie and Marty bought the building, and got everything going. So yeah.
Right. And Margie has retired.
I know.
Timmy and Marty are partners.
Yeah. Yeah. Long way from the gas station over on Farmington Avenue. Because the dad owned the gas station on Farmington Avenue. That's where it all started.
Yep.
Okay, so, but yeah, I mean, Ned, going back to the comment, I mean, it was, we're trying to, who's absent, unless there's sort of an excused absence, and I think Robert offers a lot to the commission, and I would prefer to have him on the commission. And that's my personal take. I value his opinion on a lot of the stuff, so I think he's a valuable member of the commission, and I keep it that way. But that's my take, so.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Question on the meetings though, do site walks count as meetings? For the purposes of the 50% test?
I don't think we've ever discussed that.
Okay.
It just says absence from meetings. It doesn't define meetings.
It says regular meetings.
Yeah.
So
regular. Okay.
Yes, but it also says
three regular meetings. Yes.
waived by the chair of the commission because of illness or other extenuating circumstances.
right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm.
I was just thinking if
happy to say this
sidewalks
is
were
extenuating
included, you might not have to. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I knew he was thinking about doing something. I just didn't think he'd be getting back into the planning field. So, I mean, so if people are content with what we have, we may want to go ahead and just put the slate forward again. I mean, we don't usually start this early, so this is kind of unusual for us, at least addressing it.
Well,
somewhat.
as we said, we give. Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I believe it states in your bylaws October 1 or within 30 days of October.
Yeah,
1.
you go down to here.
Yeah.
Officers meeting shall consist within a period not exceeding 30 days after the first day of October.
Yeah.
So 30 days from the first day of October to the period not exceeding 30 after the first day each year.
It's your second meeting.
Yeah. So 30 days after the first day of October would be October 30th though. So their next meeting is not till November 1st. So.
Yeah, but they theoretically your second October
Exactly.
meeting they could.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. God, wow. That's right. Yes. So
that's wishful thinking, Bruce.
I know. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you talking? Like, oh, that's right.
Month is
Yes.
going fast enough.
Exactly. So we've already scheduled applications out for November. That's why my head is in November right now. But yeah, so you can right now it's just for discussion. I mean, we brought it up just in case there was anyone wanted to discuss, and then we could actually do the elections next meeting.
The next meeting.
Everybody wants.
October.
Yep.
Okay.
Up to you guys.
I see no reason why we shouldn't do it now. I don't want to be vice chair. I'm very happy with secretary.
Well, just keep in mind, Ned, though, that if
I know
I can't make the second meeting of the month, you better be prepared.
I know.
Okay, so somebody want to put a motion forward for that slate, I guess, for chair, vice chair, and secretary?
We should probably do them separately.
Okay.
Right? No?
It doesn't matter, really.
Doesn't
No,
matter. I
I
think
thought
we've
we
usually
did
done
them
it as a slate if there's no problem.
Have we? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unless there, I mean, because again, I think it's pretty substantial. If I'm going to be missing potentially 50% of the meetings, my role as vice chair. So if we think, if time was needed to ponder, if there's someone that thought that they could step in and fill that role, again, I'm not really seeking to continue as vice chair, but I'm also, not gonna refuse in fairness to the commission. I have a conflict with probably half of the meetings.
And I'm well aware of that, and I'm happy to have you as often as we can. So that's my take.
I would just add, I mean, if you really don't feel that's good, then while this has always been a very nonpartisan group, I think it would be one of the step forward and all that. So just food for thought.
Agreed. Thanks, Ned.
Somebody want to make a motion?
This is Rich. I'd make a motion to for the slate of current officers.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Dave will second.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to go with the existing slate of officers for the next calendar year. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, you got us for another year.
I'm gonna insist that they double our salary though.
Done, done.
10 times nothing is still nothing.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Okay, before we go, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Can we just confirm the date of the walk, the date and time and the address? I think my chicken scratching, I want to make sure I get it right.
No, we had penciled in October 12th at 5:30. And like I said, I will confirm that with the applicant because he's checking one more thing, but I will send out an agenda. We'll send out a map where it is and where to park. So we'll take care of all that. Okay?
Marvelous.
You're talking about Snowberry?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yep. So
Okay.
we still have one more thing on that I got to go over. So
Yep, 9 Apple Tree.
9 Apple Tree.
Did they split up the plants?
Yes, they're moving along. George has not gone out there yet. George is trying to get out there this week. All right, so I was out there this morning, so I can give you the latest possible what's going on. So here's that swale again, and if you remember, all the work was done back here. So what we have here is here's the plantings he started to move. He had them all grouped up. They've been spreading them out. They've stripped the topsoil from here. This, if you remember the plan, like goes from here and then it hooks back over to here. So, oh, wrong way. So you can see they're starting to spread these out. Okay, there's still a pile of the plants in the trays that they have to plant. So they are making progress. Here's the line that was stripped, so they'll have to be creeping out into here as well, and then making the turn back along the back of the property, which is right here. So I left a message for the applicant to get a hold of me in terms of what the remainder in the schedule is, and I haven't heard back from them yet. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. As soon as I get something, I'll let everyone know, and then we'll follow up with some more photos. So.
Well, again, keep in mind with what Ian just mentioned is that we're starting to get close to the end of the growing season too.
Exactly. The last time I met with the contractor, he was adamant he wanted this done. So he's moving as hard and fast as he can to get this stuff done. So
Robert, you got a question?
Yeah, but not on this application, but before we close the meeting.
Okay.
Bruce, who's doing the work?
It's the owner's cousin. So
Is he a landscaper or a professional?
Does everything, you know.
Okay.
You know, a little bit of everything. So he does landscaping, he does some construction. So but
okay, so he knows what he's doing.
Exactly. And
okay.
And he is working under the watchful eye of George. George has been out there. George is moving the plants around, and George is working with him on how it gets done. So
yeah, because originally the property owner was going to do the work, and I didn't want that. So
exactly. So
in this picture, is there a widowmaker hanging back there?
Yes, that's a look. Oh, good eye. Yeah, right up in there.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's
they probably have to clean that up.
Yeah.
Good eye. Okay, so that's it on that?
That's it.
Okay, so next up on the agenda, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for September 20th, 2023 Wetlands meeting?
So moved.
So moved by Eisner.
Is there a
Second
second?
by Ned.
Okay, have a motion to approve the wetland minutes of September 20th, 23. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I will abstain. since I was not feeling too well that night. So Robert, before we adjourn, you said you had a comment or question or
Yes,
something?
I wanted to jump back to the property at 1509 Farmington Avenue. And if the rest of the commission agrees, could we ask Bruce to ask the town attorney for the case law that refutes that this activity is incidental and as of right for residential property? Because I don't want to spend weeks or months trying to educate this individual. I'd like to go into the next meeting with, confirmation from our town attorney that what's happened is not a residential exemption, and then we can accept the application, and I would look to deny the application at the following meeting based on existing case law.
Okay. Will
That's
do.
probably a wise move.
Yep. Good point.
And then, okay, end of comments. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robert. So, we got 9:36, so I guess it's time to adjourn this meeting for wetlands. And then I guess we'll slide over to Conservation Commission, and it doesn't look like there's much except for approval of the minutes. Do you have any planners reports on anything, Bruce?
No, they don't have anything.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the minutes of September 20th, 2023 Conservation Commission meeting?
So moved by,
Or second.
Okay, have a motion on the floor to approve the Conservation Commission meeting minutes of September 20th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstaining, I will also abstain. And I think that does it for the evening, folks.